Right, well, let's get started. So, good morning,
Absolutely.
everyone who's tuned in on the stream, and thank you for staying with us. If you've been here since last night, and if you have, then try not to nod off during the next 45 minutes or so, and we'll try and make it interesting for you. And some of us have been up quite late and struggling a little bit with our words, which is all quite interesting and relevant to the theme of the session. So we have with us MVG Charity and Dick Thompson from High Performing Systems. None of us feel like we're performing particularly highly at the moment. Dolly from our team and myself. And we're basically going to just talk about why we're raising money at the moment for veteran welfare and what we're doing and what it's all about. So just bear with us if we struggle. Because we're doing a 24-hour live stream, as you know. We're recording this for YouTube. So
just to break in, we are literally at 99% of the target.
Yeah,
What I'm talking about.
So we have actually raised $10,000, but for some bizarre reason, it's classing it as 99%.
Oh,
we've hit the target since that was literally 15 minutes ago. I was looking at that, and we haven't.
nice. That's what I'm talking about.
We've had some storm of investors, of donors. Oh God, my words! I'm going to struggle today. So I wanted to ask, first of all, when we get started, and this is an interesting one. I'd be interested in Dick's view on this. We've just been talking a little bit before we started about how, in the military, when you train and you're tired and, you start falling apart at the seams. And I just want to ask, talking, of that, Dolly, you've been up longest. I think I had 4 hours sleep and you had a couple.
I had about an hour and a half.
Yeah. So
I think Digby was quite close as well with the hour and a half-ish sleep.
Mm.
So yeah, it's not too bad. I just hit a wall and I was like, I am going to either go downhill in my personality, which is not what I want to do with obviously the stream and also like talking to people, having to do these chats and stuff. Mm. So I just went, look, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a nap. I woke up before my alarm went off, which was upsetting. And, and then I just went, right, okay, just reinvigorated a little bit, drunk a cold coffee because I couldn't be asked making a new one, and went, let's crack on with this. And kind of landed and was told that I was taking over running the Mike Force. So it was a very interesting thing to do, just to go, because there was a lot of people in the Mike Force who I didn't know as well, and obviously aren't used to my interesting technique of leading a situation like Mike Force. But it was at the briefing where you've just got the whole group of people stood around you just laughing when they see what the plan actually is. It was brilliant, and that's kind of what I do it, but I needed that sort of hour and a half sleep, hour-ish sleep.
Yeah,
so,
reset, and I guess that's what happens to the brain, Dick. Can you tell us from your experience, like how tiredness and fatigue affects the mind?
Yeah, anything that places a demand on your body, demand on your brain, triggers the stress response. And when the stress goes up, your ability to access your cognitive ability, access your emotional ability, and to make effective decisions goes down quickly. I think our audience, if they observed this group yesterday, and now they're back today, they're saying, wow, it hasn't been 24 hours yet. And, I can tell a difference in the way people are talking, the way they're acting, the way they're looking. Their personalities are starting to look different. Lack of sleep is detrimental to your ability to function well with the real SOG teams. You went out, and it's interesting when a SOG team was inserted, you always started out surrounded because there was no one out there but enemy all the way around you. So, and it's kind of like, when you're wrestling or you're doing something and you give your opponent, they get to get their hold on you to start with, and then you have to work your way out of it. And that's kind of the way a SOG team was. You hit the ground, you had to move, you had to think, you had to be on top of what was going on all the time. And your stress is up. So it's eating away at your energy level. You're carrying all that weight, and it starts to push you down. And then it's night, and you have to decide, are you going to sleep? What percentage of people are going to be allowed to sleep during the night? How are you going to rotate that shift around? If it's raining, then the number of people you let sleep goes down, because with rain and with wind, the NVA could walk right up on top of you and be inside your perimeter before you knew they were there, because you couldn't hear them coming. So your sleep starts to go down, and on day 2, you can already notice, you're not as sharp as you were. I used to do a lot of research, take people out and keep them up for 3 or 4 days at a time. I would assess them every 4 hours. I'd make them carry, full combat load, continue to move the whole time. Every 4 hours, I would assess them. And I found that after 24 hours without sleep, their ability to do a simple math worksheet, just adding some numbers or subtracting numbers, their ability to be accurate on that would drop about 25%. That wasn't the bad part. The bad part was they would tell me, I'm just as good now as I was yesterday. I'm sure I got them all right. No, they don't even realize how much their ability has dropped. So, sleep just does you in and you don't realize it. So you need to get some. And like Dolly was saying earlier, getting that 90 minutes of sleep, that can help. Knowing when to get the sleep can help. If you're going to get a power nap, for example, power nap, the 30-minute block of sleep, if you do that between 1300 and 1400, you get the biggest bang for the buck of the whole 24-hour cycle. That's when you'll recover the most if you use that. If you go longer than the 30 minutes, it's going to throw you into a sleep cycle, and then you're going to have trouble coming out of it. So there are tons of things around sleep. Yeah, and I was a special forces instructor, for a while. I spent several years as a ranger instructor. I walked around many days with ranger students who were hallucinating. They didn't know who they were. I've seen them be standing there talking to you, and in the wintertime, and you'd go on admin to thaw out some people that were about to get frostbite, and have a guy talking to you fall asleep while he's talking and fall right into the fire. And you have to snatch him out of the fire and put him out. It's just unreal. And you go to sleep. I remember when I was a student and the instructor was talking, and at mid sentence, he said, "Wake up, Ranger." And I thought, who's he talking to? And then he said, "Yeah, you, Thompson, get over here, get in the creek and start doing push-ups until I get tired." And I thought, I wasn't asleep. And you don't realize it. You're sitting, your eyes are open, but you're asleep. So anyway, that's a long answer.
But this is it. There was a time in Afghanistan where I was operating on a situation where I was in command of a team. So I always made sure they got sleep, and I forgot to, I tried to get an hour or so. But after a sort of month of only having an hour's sleep a day, There was one day I sat down, I just set up the equipment, my interpreter had brought me my food. And I sat down, leant against the wall, I had the spoon in my ration pack, I had the ration pack in my hand. The next thing I know, someone's shaking me awake. The spoon is still in my ration pack. It's still on my lap. I just passed out for 12 hours, literally just completely passed out. It is. Did you ever find that being in command of a team, you neglected yourself when you were ensuring that the teams were having sufficient sleep and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's a tendency to do that. You think you're the leader, you're Superman, you can drive on, you can do this stuff. You've got to stay awake. You got to make sure, everything's going right. And that's a mistake that you make if you're not careful. You have to get sleep. There's a story in the book I'm working on now, where Bargewell was my assistant team leader, General Bargewell. You're probably all familiar with him. He's definitely a legend. He was my assistant team leader. We were out on a PW snatch. The weather got bad. We had to make sure that Bargewell and I got some sleep, because there's a tendency. We were both kind of crazy, I guess. So there's a tendency for us to want to stay up. But I told him, we have to sleep. You and I have to get some. The team can watch over us while we sleep, but we've got to get a little bit more because there's so many moving pieces to this ambush we're about to pull off to get the prisoners. We've got to be as sharp as we can be by then when it happens. So there'd be times where I would make sure we got a little extra sleep compared to the team.
It's quite hard to go to sleep when you're anticipating something that's going to be very kinetic. For us, me and Dolly, just anticipating yesterday beginning, we were both up at 7 a.m. and we both would have you were up earlier, Dolly, but we would have much preferred to be up at 10 or 11 to give us plenty of rest before. And I'd planned that. And then ping, my eyes opened at 7. Dolly was already there. We were chatting on our phones. And we were just like, oh God, we've got 10 hours before we start, but there's that, the brain gets into a state and maybe it's your endocrine system as well, but you get into a state of being on. And I recovered from chronic fatigue syndrome after I was running 5 companies as a chief exec, and I was responsible for 5 companies at once. And I was always on. Completely always on. Even when you go to, I would always sleep quite well, but I'd be on. So I'd be on until my eyes closed, and I'd be on as soon as my eyes opened, fully going, whirring like a machine and calculating n degrees of, anything else. And being brought.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting for people to play the SOG game. Put on 100 pounds of gear, play it standing up. You could put your laptop up on a stand, so that you're fully erect and you're playing it, but you've got that rucksack and LBE, your weapon, all your other stuff on. And you're supporting all that weight. You turn the heat up in the room you're playing in.
That'd be the worst of it right there, is the heat.
So it's 100 plus degrees in the room. You put a little humidifier in there to keep the humidity up. While you're doing that, eat 1 meal a day, so your calorie rate drops down significantly. Don't talk. You can't say a word out loud the entire game until you make contact. And then when you get a chance to sleep, you might, go to sleep a little easier, unless they're on you and now you're worried about it. So actually, all 1 zeros carried a medical kit. in that medical kit, like some of the guys talked about yesterday, were the different chemicals. You had codeine, morphine, dexedrine, amphetamines, all kinds of things that you can pick and choose from depending on what you were trying to do. But a lot of times you had to use the amphetamines to keep you awake because you were so tired from carrying all that stuff around. But you couldn't afford to go to sleep, and you'd pass those out to the team. But,
I mean, they're fine as long as you're not socked in, right? If the weather socks in and you're there for 10 days and you start coming off amphetamine after maybe 3 or 4 days, you're going to crash so hard.
Yeah, you will crash. Oh, the other thing, before you went out on the mission, you also started taking Imodium to stop yourself up. Mm-hmm. So you go 3 or 4 days without having to poop.
A lot of toxins building up.
But yeah, so all that's building up inside of you. And then when you get back, then you have the problem of trying to get started again. Mm-hmm. And that's very uncomfortable. So,
yep.
So, so there was a whole chemical cycle that you would go through on a mission in addition to everything else. And with the weight, the good thing about the weight was once you made contact, you started getting a lot lighter. As you start using the claymores and the grenades and the ammunition and everything, the weight you were carrying got a lot lighter.
The absolute joy of a UGL gunner going, "Oh, good, let's get rid of these."
I was about to say, I've been a 240 gunner dismounted. It definitely gets lighter. Gets lighter if you put some rounds down range.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's only 1 or 2 contacts. You should really be on a deliberate rate of fire. No, 8 to 10 second bursts.
Just keep it steady, boys. Fire superiority. Don't stop.
Yeah. Talking guns. Guns.
Yeah. In there, man. That sucks. Mobile 240s are misery.
And another issue that is probably more for the next session is the interval between missions. How much time do you have to recover from the mission you were just on and just barely manage to get back? Half, 2/3 of your team are wounded. You may be wounded, and you've got a couple of days maybe, and they're assigning you the next mission. So you got to start in the mission prep. You've got to see who you have left that you can take with you on that mission. And I think you've heard some discussion around that Lynn Black and I had. Lynn and I were similar in that I like a fast turnaround. When I get back, give me the next mission, and I want to go back out relatively quickly. A lot of people didn't like that. They wanted more time in there. I don't want time to sit and think about how close the last one was. I just want to know, what did I learn? And we do that after action review. What did we not do so well on? What do we need to practice more on before we go out? What do we need to practice on specifically for this mission? Let's get started on it. I like to keep moving, but there's a fatigue factor in there too. So
I think I felt that in martial arts competitions if your actual fights are too far apart, your body starts to really stiffen up, and you want to just get on with the next one because you're pumped, and as soon as that pump starts to wear off, everything starts to go, and bit by bit, your whole resolve and your power and everything starts to drop. And, if you've got to wait till 4 in the afternoon and your last one was at 9 in the morning, you get on the mat and you feel like an old man, and, and you probably lose. So
hard to amp that back up again.
Yeah. Because it's like you commit all of that, and it's like mainlining adrenaline and cortisol and all the other hormones, and then of course your body starts shutting all those down afterwards, and you've released all your energy into the blood, and then it's gone, and there's the reserves start to deplete, so this sort of brings up my other question really around this is because the first thing we were talking about there was sleep, and then the second thing is rest, and this is in the arsenal, is the R and S. And the one thing I really learned from doing the Arsenal assessment was to rest. And I've been saying to my employees for 25 years, learn to rest. I used to have a thing above my desk behind me on the wall, learn to rest. And it was always telling everyone in the team, take some rest, don't work too hard. And I burned out twice in my career. So I was preaching it, but I wasn't doing it, But what do you think about rest in what we all do? How do you what tips do you have? How do you stay aware of your level of rest? How do you stay on top of rest? What do you do to rest?
Yeah, one thing is all high performing systems have to regenerate. You have to have rest periods. You can't run a race engine 24/7. It will eventually fall apart and quit on you. As humans, we have to have that rest. And, so we recommend that just on a normal day, at least once an hour, you've got to get up and spend 5 or 10 minutes moving around. You can go in the parking lot, walk around the parking lot, go somewhere and walk around through the building, go talk to your people, get some activity, get the blood circulating. And a lot of the watches today have those settings on it that tell you if you haven't moved in 45 minutes, it starts beeping and buzzing and saying, stand up, go for a walk, do something, just to keep you out there. And that makes a difference. Making sure that you're getting adequate sleep at night before you come in. If you don't, there are ways that you can use the little 10-minute cat naps. They do work. You'd be surprised at what you get back from 10 minutes. The power nap, like I mentioned earlier, the 30 minutes. And what I do with those is I drink a coffee right before the power nap. So during the power nap, the caffeine is slowly working its way into my system. It takes about 45 minutes to get the full dose of caffeine into your system. So you're coming out of your sleep, at around 30 minutes or so, the caffeine is starting to kick in. So it helps get you out of that little initial foggy period when you first come out of it and get you moving again. So there are different techniques. I mean, you don't want to do that a lot during the day. I try not to do the caffeine after 1500, because it takes about 5 or 6 hours at least to get out of your system. You don't want it interfering with your sleep. So there are things like that you can do. Melatonin, there are some different chemicals here that can help you out. Getting your devices turned off, at least an hour before you go to bed.
I think that's a big one for a lot of people, especially this newer generation of folks.
I want to caveat on what Dick was saying. I think the one thing that we all have learned as soldiers is just have this ability to find sleep pretty much anywhere. You can sleep up on a tank. You can sleep. You just find random places that you can just randomly go to sleep. You're like, we got 5 minutes, and you're out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on helicopter watch.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I've got in some of the training I do around the decision making under stress, I've got some pictures of people, soldiers, like you're saying, sleeping, firemen. I've got a bunch of pictures of firemen. I mean, they're just, they're taking a little sleep break and they're piled all over each other or in unbelievable positions.
It is hard to hold down 2 jobs, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but you gotta get it. Sleep definitely interferes with your ability to function well. So, and you need to rest. Take a vacation. And I know most people don't know how to spell that, or at least the people that most of us associate with. They can't even spell vacation, but you do need to take a 3-day weekend every once in a while at least, or take a week, do something different, and try to get a little rest or get some fun, get something to do while you're out there. That's all part of rest. Having a hobby, doing something besides just whatever your work is. And I know, again, a lot of people we hang out with, work is your hobby. That's all you do. You don't distinguish, and you like it. I mean, you like what you do and you're good at it and you do it all the time. But your brain still needs an opportunity to do something else. Take a different route to work tomorrow. When you go into work, you go around a different block. Just take a little different way. Your brain, your eyes see something different. Your brain's processing different data. It helps it to stay sharper. It helps give your brain a rest. Your brain consumes about 25% of your energy. I mean, your brain burns enough energy, just normal, to light a 25-watt light bulb. And if you actually start thinking and doing something, you're consuming even more energy. And I find that people go to work all day on something that's regularly, for the most part, a cognitive task, and they go home and they're just burned out. And they think, well, I didn't do anything, meaning I didn't run 20 miles at work. I didn't carry a 100-pound, rock around. I didn't do anything physical. How could I be so tired? It's because this thing is just consuming your energy. Mm-hmm. I did some work with exercise, and Brian, you appreciate this. I started monitoring and measuring the type of work I was doing, and I would go work out at lunch, and I started tracking, on bench press. Did one hand lag behind the other a little bit, on a heavy bench press. And then I started correlating that with what I was doing. And it made a difference in terms of, was I doing something very logical, analytical at work that morning? Or was I in a much more creative mode, accessing, a different hemisphere of my brain? And I could see how I was tiring my brain out, the different hemispheres, and how that was impacting my lift in terms of the strength I had in my arms. It was a kind of interesting thing to play with.
I've had the same experience. I used to be a lift during lunch sort of guy, because that was the only time I could ever fit it in. And I would remember just days where, your mentality going into an exercise event means a lot, right? So there'd be days where, you start off and you're in 10,000 just meetings that, 90% of them had nothing to do with me. And I'm just there just to watch boring PowerPoints all day. And it just takes it, there's nothing physically demanding about it. Matter of fact, I don't even have any intellectual contributive value at all. I just had to watch the most mundane thing in the world. And it just kind of slows your brain down and functionally, efficiently, to the point where I get out and I haven't done a thing. I haven't even lifted so much as a pad of paper, but I go into that and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do this today.
Death by PowerPoint.
Yeah. It's just I don't want to do it today. I have all the energy in the world, but your mentality going into it and how it's affected negatively or positively going into those events, man, it has a big translating effect into your physical performance. Mm-hmm.
So one thing,
that's why you guys see professional athletes talk about this all the time. Their energy level during game day versus practice, right? Practice is something it's routine. It's drills. It's doing the same thing, getting that perfection down through muscle memory, and you're just running it. But then when you hit Sunday and it's game time, and you're putting on the pads and you're playing against somebody else that you have no idea what's about to happen. You're completely alert to what's going on. It's breaking that cycle of just doing the same thing over and over again. You're on, right? So it's playing the same thing that you've been practicing the 6 days prior,
Yeah.
I
So
think
one of the things, with the arsenal, the arsenal is looking at you, physically, nutritionally, mentally, all these different areas. It gives you a snapshot of where you are right now, which areas you might want to work on if you want to bring your stress resilience up. So when it is game day, you're prepared to go. We do a thing with our clients where we're talking about every day when you come to work, you should be already topped off. You're hydrated. You've had your carbs. You got everything ready to go. You have your electrolytes, because in a lot of jobs, you don't know how long you're going to be there. You're a nuclear operator, and if there's a problem with the reactor, you may be there several days and have to go without sleep. You need to come in topped off. If you're a firefighter, you don't know how many calls you're going to get that day or how bad they're going to be, or a SWAT guy or law enforcement or military. So you come in ready to go. And we have a process that we start 3 days before putting you into, because today started 3 days ago. And if you go back and look at what you ate, what you did, what you didn't do, starting 3 days ago, it'll tell you where you are today. And that tells you what you're prepared to do today and how long you can go forward. And, I did a similar version of that with SOG. So during our pre-mission training, I would make these little guys drink water. I would make them get their electrolytes. I would make them get the right foods in them. I'd put them through a routine like that. So when they came out of that helicopter and their feet hit the ground, we were focused. It was game day. We've got to go out now, and we've got to be sharp. We've had to sleep. We've had our food. We've had our water. We're ready to go. Hit the ground. And, my intent was to go get them. Go get the bad guys are out there, and we're going to find them.
I find it funny. So when I was listening to this conversation, I actually went back and looked at my own Arsenal report, because I remember the biggest thing that I took away from it is that I'm a glutton for punishment when it comes to rest. And I remember that being the big takeaway that not just me, but Brandon, our charity president, had very similar results. And I went back and I looked at it, and it was by far my lowest score out of all of them. So I scored a 4 out of 10. And everything that we've been discussing now for, I don't know, the past 20 minutes or so, I mean, might as well be tailor fitted to me, which is why I kind of chuckle, because like, we're all talking about this. We're all aware of it. Right. And that's really the most deceiving piece of it, is that you can be acutely aware of all of this stuff, and us being leaders and have been in these environments for a long time. I'm spent my entire adult life in the military and leading other people. And, you give all this advice, but you can't follow it yourself. Rob, you talked about this as well, preach it, but live it, and they always have this mentality. A lot of the organization, the machine that you get involved in, preaches, the leaders eat last, leaders sleep last, take care of your team first, you go last, right? And it's, make sure everybody else is taken care of. But the difficulty is that once you get to that point, this up here doesn't have a switch you can just shut off. You know what I mean? You're still thinking about 9 million things, and it's like, oh, okay, well, all right, well, now it's my turn. But, oh, you know what? I'll go take care of this real quick. And, oh, you know what? I'll go take care of that real quick. And you can't shut it off. So I know that I just found the familiarity in this, revisiting a lot of these lessons learned that we've been discussing now, and it kind of harkened back to my results. I'm like, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, my Arsenal results are like, this is me to a T, despite being aware of all of what we've been talking about and making it a common practice of my leadership style. My own personal treatment is so devoid of these common practices that, even intelligent, experienced leaders need to constantly remind themselves of where their own deficiency areas are. And this is a big one. Rest is obviously, I scored well in other areas, but this was by far, I bottomed out on it completely.
I relate to that. And I can give you a bit of a life hack for this one and for the audience as well, because I learned something very important a few years ago. And it picks up a bit on what Dick was saying. And when he first watched us play the game, and he said, you know, when my foot comes off the skid, because he was with us in the helicopter watching as we were streaming. And as we got out of the helicopter, he said, you know, when my foot comes off the skid, I'm coming for you. Attitude. He had the attitude, and attitude is obviously a big part of Arsenal. And what all of us probably have strongly, and I imagine a lot of the audience who are veterans would also have, is that attitude. I've been studying Kung Fu for a while, and what they're teaching us in Tiger style is to have the attitude of a predator. So you literally put yourself in the mind of a tiger. You know, you're literally going to tear something apart. And I imagine that, you know, you can kind of understand that, and you can reflect on that from your military days. But here's the life hack. If you can do that, you can also go for a walk and fill yourself with joy at being where you want to be, doing what you want to be doing, with a loving family, happy in who you are, where you are right now. And you can reprogram your mind, just like you might to become a tiger or to be a killer or to, you know, to look after your team. You can do the same thing. Attitude, you can change, and you can focus your attitude on rest. And the way to do that is to fill yourself up with joy, and to enjoy the environment around you, to smell the flowers and admire the trees. And if you do that, if you're mindful and go for that walk, and just once a day, just open up those brain pathways. And it sounds all very mystical and crystals and stuff, but it's literally NLP. It works. And it worked for me. I had chronic fatigue syndrome. I couldn't work for 3 years. I had this treatment. They taught me to do this, and I was fixed after 3 days. I had my life completely back. And that's a life hack. You know, just fill yourself up with joy and love, and because you can do it. You know, if you can put a killer in here, you can also put, you know, the most pieced out hippie in there as well, and you can let go and just be part of the environment you're in. And that's what I took from the whole attitude side of Arsenal. It's like it's all great to have an attitude that we can do, we can overcome. You know, we're gonna drive this to the end. We're gonna carry the weight. We're gonna carry the team. Yeah, but you need to carry yourself, and the way to do that is to let go and not be yourself. Just be part of the environment and part of the world around you, and just let go. And we can all do that. All you have to do is take a walk.
What I would say is you also have to remember that everyone has shit days or shit times of their life. And, you know, it's, I don't want to hit a cliche of like, it's not how a man falls down, it's how he picks himself back up again. But genuinely, it's what Rob's saying about the mindfulness is actually really it's a massively overlooked thing, mindfulness, and just being aware of your surroundings. So, you know, I was going to make a joke just now when Rob was saying, oh yeah, going for a walk with your loving family. I was like, oh, he's hitting on the fucking divorce thing again. But, you know, just rubbing it in. All right. But the reality of it is, what I done is I surrounded myself and I started making real connections with friends who I've known for years. And it's like one of my friends, Jay, who was in the chat earlier, I don't know if he is now, I went up and him and his wife properly looked after me for a few weekends. And it was like having that sort of thing and having that sort of community and being able to turn around to your gaming friends and just go, look, I'm having a shit time. Having that corner to turn to explain the situation, and they don't even have to tell you that everything's going to be all right, because quite often when you're in a shit mood, that's not what you want to hear. What you just need is you need someone to vent at who will just go, yeah, that's shit, mate.
Keep you from turning into a pressure cooker.
You know, we do that a lot of times here within our community at MVG. I mean, it's healing through gaming. That's our motto. And we have people that just come in vet. I've played with other, veterans almost every single day. And I can tell you, they tell me their life stories, I tell them my own. And it's just, like you were saying, it's just people that need to come in and vet. and take that stressor, take that little edge off of when you playing some video games with some of your friends, right? And really making those personal connections, which really doesn't happen sometimes in the gaming experience. Sometimes you'll be in those cutting edge, like toxic communities that are always about being number one. But here, it's just about having fun and connecting with your lost battle brothers and sisters. I mean, how many times have you, got out of the military, or you've seen it where, you lost your platoon, you lost your squad, and the second you're out, they don't talk to you anymore, or, you've lost all those support channels. And it's really hard to find those support channels outside of it. But with the brotherhood and the connections that we have here, I mean, that's what we do every day here at MVG. We reestablish those connections we've lost, especially with our battle brothers and sisters. So I didn't mean to go on a tangent there. I
didn't want to go on that. No, that's not a tangent, Jordan. That's absolutely, I was actually going to ask you guys, what do you feel you mean by healing through gaming? And I think you've just answered that mostly.
Awesome.
It's all about your support networks, though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that was one of the things I was massively missing. And it wasn't a case of I didn't need a therapist necessarily. And that's not what we mean by support network. Mm. Your support network are just people, they're your friends. They're the people you can talk to and will be there. It's like I've got Digby sat in here, and I know for a fact that if ever I'm feeling down, I can just turn around to Digby and say, look, mate, I need to chat. Or if ever Digby's feeling down, he can send me a message saying, look, mate, I need a chat. And it's quite often we'll have evenings where we're just sat in a Discord channel having these conversations with friends. We're not even playing games together. We just sat chatting. And that's the sort of hidden element that a lot of people who don't game, they don't get to see this element of gaming and the community spirit that when you find a group that you fit in with, it's just like really, really nice. And we're all very different people. We all have completely different backgrounds, but it's that you start by playing games and then you build up that relationship and friendship through the gaming and stuff.
It's the content behavior, like being conscious of how you see yourself as well. That's the awareness that we're talking about. Understanding that the people, the support network that you're with can be very beneficial, and you might not even know it. It might just be as simple as coming in and saying hi to someone today, right? Like, hey, good morning, right? That could actually change someone's day in any aspect. Like you said, you have no idea. That guy could have came off of a 4-hour shift on a firefighter detail. He's just like, man, I just want to unwind and whatnot. And someone says, hey, how's your day? And they go into it. They go into their day. And we need those types of people that are, there for us, our support networks. Sorry.
Well, and just buying into the idea that, you talking about things and communicating, connecting with people is actually going to be helpful. Because there's a lot of times too, Jordan brought up that we just, we have a mental health team with Nikki and her staff that help run, offer services for people who are going through behavioral health situations, points of traumatic experiences in their life that they're trying to work through. And that's, those are, put in through official channels and dealt with as they come up. But there's a lot of times where, as Jordan talked to, there's, random people just wanting to talk about things. But then what we'll find is if I had $1 for every time this happened, I'd be a rich man, where somebody would come in and somebody would be discussing something and it would take some follow-on questions. I'm not going to call it digging, but you kind of get the sense that after talking to this person that something's not set well with this individual, something's not right. And then when finally the information comes out, what's the first response? Like, oh my God, why didn't you say something months ago? You know what I mean? It's just like,
why'd you let it get so bad?
Yeah. Why did you let it get damn near past the point of repair before this all finally starts to come out? And what you'll find is there's a lot of people that have reservations about talking. But talking is weakness, right? This is being in a discussion format about your problems is weakness. And there's a lot about my own organization that I've came from, my military upbringing, that kind of in its earlier stages would have taught that, right? You're tough all the time, every time, and you don't ever turn that steel plated switch off, and that's it, and it's hard to acclimate to that and then undo that down the road. You know what I mean? So I know that just having conversations with random people in the chats, I mean, there's been, I can't even count how many times. You can just sense something's come out and you dig and you dig and you dig, or you just kind of ask, keep the discussion going, only to find out that they're 90 days past due on their bills, and they can't pay for groceries with their family, and it's been, they're eating ramen noodles and water all day, and no offense to college students, I was there once myself, but it's like, man, you could have said something months ago, but it's the hubris, it's the pride that kind of prevents them to do. They're not quite bought into the idea that, one, maybe they don't even think they have a problem, and two, this idea of talking about it really isn't my thing. Right. So,
or they feel that they're at the point of no return, right? That's where you get the selflessness. Yeah. And that's where we, our intervention, we have resources and the availability. Nikki and their team are amazing. If they don't have the answer, they'll find it for you. Yeah. They'll try, 24/7. They'll try to get out there and help individuals get the resources they need and the contacts. And, being a charity, we work with a lot of other support groups and other charities to get that aid to an individual. And in the past, we've done those. We've done those direct aids for individuals. I can remember, I think we paid for someone's electric bill one time for Christmas, and they weren't going to have a Christmas. That his entire family wasn't going to have it, and we paid for their electric bills. And
he paid for divorces.
No,
it's still up for a board vote.
I mean, hard times affect us all. I laugh and kid about that, but I mean, the semantics of it is everything is ad hoc. You have to take an intake of an individual personally and really assess that individual accordingly, right? Because each person's different, and that's what the Arsenal program does perfectly, is gives that assessment to that person. With very, very good. Dick, you did an amazing job on that. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
You and your team.
Yeah, there's an erosion that goes on, isn't there? And we all erode, like Dick was saying earlier. And we were talking at the beginning of the conversation about when you're tired and you start to fall apart. Well, that happens on a long-term basis. So it's not necessarily sleep related. It's related to all these points in the arsenal as they all erode. So you get less time because you're more tired. So the time you do have, you're slower at doing everything. So you then become time poor. Becoming time poor, you start eating junk food and ordering in because you don't have time to cook anything fresh. So your diet starts to deplete, and your nutrition. You don't have time for exercise. Then because you're not exercising, you become less capable, and it's a spiral, and we're all on this path, and we can all spiral in both directions. And by sort of putting in this intervention, becoming aware of where we stand with the Arsenal tool, we can actually start turning that into an upward spiral, and increasing our capacity.
DoorDash is definitely not helping that situation.
Here's a very interesting point on exactly that, the nutrition and stuff like that. Rob, during this time, how much have you eaten?
Since we started the game? So my wife has been my support network on this. So she brought me a lasagna about an hour before the live session with the SOG vets last night, which I wolfed down one-handed, and she'd even cut it up for me, bless her. So that was pretty amazing. And then I ate a whole box of after eights, which are basically chocolate mints, which kept me going on the sugar all until 5 or 6 in the morning with you guys. And then I got up after a little nap and ate a load of muesli with chopped up strawberries and blueberries on it to give me a big kick of fructose this morning. Plus the muesli will keep me going all day. And there's actually a bacon sandwich sitting here that my wife brought in during, you know, and I've been smelling it for the last hour while we've been in conversation. I'm going to wolf it down as soon as I'm off camera. So, you know, I'm being looked after here, and you know, and I'm feeling pretty good nutrition wise. Yeah.
That's good, because obviously one of my issues, and that was really highlighted on the Arsenal thing, was my nutrition.
Yeah.
During this whole stream, all I had was the Burger King at the start of the stream, which I literally inhaled at the very, very start of the stream. I haven't eaten anything else. All I've been doing is drinking water and coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that when I'm in this situation, I focus on it, and I go back to that old mentality of only eat when you're hungry, because that means you get to carry less rations, which means you get to carry less weight, which means that you don't have that additional burden on top of your batteries, your radios, your ammo, your grenades, your, you know, all your other life important systems. And food is one of the lower priorities when you're man packing stuff.
You also have it where someone is telling you when you need to eat.
Yeah, I generally didn't have that, but obviously now
in the military, in the army,
yeah, I didn't generally have that.
SOG teams didn't generally carry food, did they? A lot of the time, they would go for 4 or 5 days, and they'd have like a tin of peaches or a one ration or something, you know, because they'd mostly carry ammo.
Yeah, I usually ate a meal a day, and that meal was usually a rice ball with some kind of meat stuffed into it, maybe a candy bar that went along with it. So didn't spend a lot of time with food.
I remember during my last executive burnout, you know, where I didn't want to eat, because when I ate, it made me sleepy. Because there's a cost to eating. And when you eat, you become cognitively less capable. Now, in a normally functioning person, that's fine, because you can still function reasonably well when you've eaten. But if you're eroded from fatigue and rumination and all of the things that wear you down, then when you eat, it knocks you out. You can't think very clearly at all, because you're already at a low level of cognitive capability, which you don't realize. But you get to a point where you just subconsciously don't want food, because you don't want to be in the fugue state that food's going to put you in. But it's not food that's putting you there. You're there because of all the other things that you're not addressing, right? And food's actually one of the best things you can do to resolve these situations. And that's why I religiously eat. So, as I say, I got up this morning and I have my habitual muesli and fruit every morning, and that keeps me going all morning. I never feel hungry, you know, and it keeps the brain going. And I wouldn't, you know, it's a habit that I have, and I will keep that habit. The same with water. You know, I've noticed we're all drinking, but and this is another life hack: is if you drink a pint of water every hour, you need to go for a pee. So that's going to give you a screen break if you're gaming, because you have to go and get rid of it, right? So, and then while you're doing it, top it up again and just keep the cycle going. Keep the water cycle.
My understanding, Rob, is that the hardcore gamers, like Dolly, they keep a milk jug with them. That way they can drink and they never have to get out of the chair.
It's funny. I have one sitting about 6 feet to my left. I drink about 2 gallons of water a day, and I have one sitting about. Fortunately, it's right outside of arm's reach. Had it not been, I probably would have been up a few times already.
I'm quite lucky. I'm quite lucky. I smoke, so that gives me an excuse to go outside.
Okay, yeah. Back to the SOG team for just a second. Food is a problem, and one of the big problems, you know, just aside from the weight, is it tends to be noisy when you eat. So you know, my guys didn't tear into a ration and start opening packages and eating. Everything was open before we went. Everything was reduced in noise as much as possible. Also, I didn't let my guys eat the strong smelling spices when we were on a mission, because I didn't want, you know, the NVA to smell us, and I wanted my nose and their nose to be clear so that we could smell them. silence was what kept SOG teams alive until you made contact. You didn't talk. You didn't open papers and rattle things around. Any talk on the radio was using a whisper technique, so no one could hear you. You just didn't talk until you made contact. Excuse me. Once you made contact, then obviously, you had to talk because everything got so noisy. But just walking. I used to train my guys. This is how you walk through the jungle, toe first, muffle the sounds. We did our invisibility training. If you're a hunter now, what gives away the deer? If you're hunting a deer, if he's going across in front of you, that lateral movement gives them away. So much easier to see than if they're coming straight at you. With a deer, though, the deer makes the mistake of looking right and left. So you see his head move. That's giving lateral movement. But my guys were trained, don't move laterally. Move as straightforward as you can. Be careful about turning your head. Use your eyes to look back and forth. Be invisible. And that means don't be heard, don't be seen, don't make a noise, don't make a smell. We've got, to stay invisible until we want to be seen.
That predator mentality.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I get that with the eyes. That's cool. So you just move the eyes and not the head.
Yeah. But people tend, to move the head. And you'd see them coming. And I always found it interesting if you were in an ambush position to watch them as they were coming. And you would see a lot of times the people up front were looking back and forth, and you could pick up on the movement. You would, as they got close to you, then, I just, because of the time, I call it, the sound of silence. As they start coming, the bugs, the birds, everything around becomes quiet where they are. The sound of them moving stops all the bugs and everything from making any sound. So when an area starts to go quiet down the trail, they're coming. If the birds fly, there's a lot of them coming. And, you're getting ready and you'll smell them. You can start to smell them. And, it's about to get time to deal with them.
I remember you saying that you could smell the enemy when you were watching our game.
Yeah, I was blessed, I guess. In my younger days, I had incredible senses, spidey senses. I could see as well as an owl in the dark. I could, in the daytime, I could see a gnat going up the side of a pine tree at 500 meters and tell you what sex it was. I can't do that now, obviously. I could hear dog whistles. My senses were really good. I still have the sense of smell. I mean, this is as good as it ever was. I mean, I walk into an office building, walk into my building. If someone else has been in there, I'll know it as soon as I step in the door. I'll smell it.
Human bloodhound.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you're still here.
It helped keep me alive. Yeah, that and my height. I used to want to be like my little 6'4" brother, until I was thinking one day about if I was that tall, I'd have been dead so many times.
Just a bigger target.
Yeah, I don't know how Tilt made it tall as he is.
Monster.
Lucky.
Random chance. Well, I think we're about at time. Thank you, Dick, for sharing your amazing experiences of SOG with us. We're all very grateful, and just sitting here wrapped. We could go on for hours listening, and there'll be more times, of course, in future. And very much look forward to those. I'd just like to say some thanks actually before we finish, just because it's going to go on YouTube, and I want to put this in stone in a sense. Thanks to the SOG veterans, to Ken, Tilt, Jim, Nick, Russ, Don, and yourself, Dick, for supporting what we're doing this weekend. And thanks to the streamers, to Sheriff Eli, Operator Drewski, to Karma Cut, to Friendly Nikolai, Useless Fodder from MVG, and to Enti as well. He's been great. And from my team, Martin, Enti again, Whiplash, who's just posted up an update I'm going to read in a second, and Jax, who literally flew for the last 24 hours in support of everyone, and has been an amazing team player. And then we have Jack. He's been the silent hero in the background, and he actually cancelled a weekend away with his girlfriend so that he could support the event last night. And kudos to him. He's a young lad, and he stood up for the team, which is, he needs to be thanked for. Jordan, yourself, it's your wedding anniversary.
That's great.
And here you are working, and
she's right over there.
Excellent. How many years has it been?
10.
That's excellent. Yeah, cool. So and you obviously have a very understanding wife who
oh yeah, we met on Counter-Strike. It's actually love at first frag.
Excellent. Well, thank you, and Brian as well for so eloquently explaining the role of MVG to everyone, and for sharing your personal stories as well. And then some of the guys, just a special mention, who've stayed up the whole 24 or they're all close to. Jax again, Spooky from your team, former special operator, who's basically been he's been at it. And I actually introduced him early this morning to Don Hassey, because Spooky was with the 20th SOS. So he was with the Green Hornets, and then I've introduced him to Don, who was in the 195th, and and the two of them are now bonding and talking across the generations, which is really cool to see. And Don's got lots of tales about the Green Hornets and the rivalries, the friendly rivalries they had servicing SOG in NAM. And then a big thank you especially to Digby for being so dynamic and energetic and helping us get this together. And lastly, to Dolly, who's our big hero really with all this, because it was Dolly's idea, and he basically put all this together, and he put a lot of time into it, and he's our brother. So
also thanks to you, because you done one or two things.
Yeah.
I had a long one or two.
I had a long nap and picking up. Thank you for that. And picking up on just to leave it on this. We've now raised $10,068. We're over 100% of our goal. So thank you, everyone, especially in the audience, and the streamers who helped us reach that audience. What I would say is we're going to continue raising funds today. We have more on. So at 1700 UK and 1200 EST, we have the next SOG conversation, which should be fantastic. We had 2,000 people watching it last night, and the feedback was just ecstatic. People absolutely loved the conversation that went on, the crazy Christmas tree story and some of the other things that came out, and the insights into the elite, and clandestine world of MACV SOG. It really, really is a privilege to be able to peer into the experiences that you amazing veterans, have had and are sharing with us. So we'll still continue to raise funds because every dollar counts towards helping a veteran. And the more dollars we have in the fund, we'll keep raising going forward as well. The more veterans we can all support.
Just as a sort of no, the Just Giving fundraising page is actually open till 2026. So if you currently don't have money, but you do want to donate money to MVG, you will have the opportunity afterwards. I know that Karma was actually recording for tonight, so there may be a video out.
Yeah.
But again, if you want to support, but you currently can't, and you're just waiting for, there is still time. Obviously, just because we've hit that $10,000 doesn't mean we wouldn't like to raise more. You know, we are ecstatic that we done that. And Rob, are you going to say what you said you were going to do if we hit the target?
Oh yeah. What are you going to do, Rob?
Oh God, yeah. No, what the dancing naked in the moonlight?
The Dev naked calendar.
Yeah, no, that wasn't me. That was you.
Oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah, no.
The Savage Games calendar.
So as we've hit 100%, we're basically going to open up our public servers now with the new version of Mike Force Mission, which we know everyone out there has been waiting for. If you log in on the release candidate branch, if you don't know how to do that, just ask in one of our Discords. But we're basically going to open up Mike Force now for public until our 1.1 goes into live branch, which we can't tell you when, because we're never allowed to do that. But in case we miss a day and everyone freaks out, you know, it's always best not to give a date. But it is very, very soon. And from today, if you're in release candidate branch, you will be able to get onto the KSAN map and basically, fight off hordes of NVA and go for 24 hours without sleep and all the rest of it that you want to do.
Yeah, we probably should have said that before we started doing the stream or during the stream and stuff, that as an incentive to raise the money.
Front load that a little bit.
But we actually
nice
forgot.
AAR.
We actually forgot. So it's a nice little hidden surprise for everyone.
Yeah.
They now get those open
Save the best for
servers.
last, right?
Yeah.
I look forward to doing this again, and I'm sure there's things we can do again in the future, and we'll cut some of this up for YouTube and put a single piece together, which talks through the whole MVG arsenal, high performing systems, and the all the stories we've shared, and the wisdom from Dick and his experience, because I think this stuff is pretty valuable.
Absolutely.
And on behalf of the charity too, we you guys have to say thanks would be a gross understatement. I mean, just from everybody that's involved, those in front of the camera, those behind the scenes, everybody deserves an infinite degree of praise and admiration for putting this together. Even if it was $1 that was raised as opposed to the 10 plus that we achieved our goal with. The point is that people recognize that veterans need help. And, there were people banding together to support that process. And that's what makes, events like these so special. And it's what, we try and attach the staple to in our organization and getting that awareness out, right? Making sure that we're getting people involved in the idea of there's people out there that need help. They often don't know how to help themselves. Through, a variety of means, there's options for those folks, but a lot of them just don't even know where to turn to or who to talk to. And sometimes that's all they need. So getting awareness out in front of, like-minded supportive people is important. And that's what makes these events so special. So, on behalf of MVG, the entire executive team, all the department heads, everybody that's in our community, Rob, you and your team have been, just from the absolute get-go. We started talking to you guys months ago back in the, the early parts of the summer, and just every discussion that we've had has been a professional one, a supportive one, a productive one, and one of you're all genuine. And that's what I love about it. There's no business frills to it. You're an astute businessman, but you come to the table with a friendly sort of approach that is hard to find in scenarios like these. And we all admire what you're doing, not just for the community, but for, a group of heroes like Dick and all the MACV SOG guys that, don't have a story that's as widely told to today's public as it was maybe 20, 30 years ago, getting their story out and having that to be contributed value into something you've put so much work into in your Prairie Fire game. So everybody that's been involved in this, everybody deserves a pat on the back, and we can't thank you guys enough. For MVG, we have a lot of things coming up soon, so continue to stay connected with us. You can hop in our Discord for anybody that's watching this and isn't already a part of the community. Discord.gg/military. We are the official military sponsor and partner of Discord. So you can jump in and get involved in our community there, talking directly with our members. If you'd like to visit our website, it's mvgcharity.org. You can go out there and check out. We're constantly we're revamping that process now. We got a lot of administrative things we're trying to add onto the website as we speak. Andrew and Tarlin and the community management and the marketing team are full force in getting that thing to be a more viable, more commonly used asset where it hasn't been in the past. We've been mostly focusing on the Discord. As we transition into our use of our website, please feel free to go check it out. There's a lot of hardworking folks that are putting that time into it. Brian, his tag name is Bringar. He's been coding a lot of our website stuff and putting a lot of hard work into there. So shout out to him and Sean, our marketing director, making sure that that's getting pushed forward and out into the community. We're sending the right message and getting that net cast a little wider as far as getting our message and our focus and our vision put out in front of the right folks. That allows us to increase our support. So for everybody that watched today, it's an understatement to say thanks. On behalf of Brandon and Ron and Jordan, who happens to be here with us today, the entire executive team that oversees MVG, on behalf of all of them, thank you so very much. I mean, this means a lot. Just to hit the goal is one thing, but just to have the event is worthwhile on its own. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.